Win poses are a big tradition in fighting games. When you win the round or match, you get to be told you win by the announcer, as your character can show a range of emotions to welcome their victory. However, some win poses go so far in how they style on the opponent or leave a part of the field destroyed. Since I'm all about these aesthetics that give fighting games their personality, I want to go over the win poses that celebrate way harder than their peers. These win poses bring the hype until we see them like 5 times and then just skip over them quickly to rematch our friends. Cool is in the eye of the beholder here, so for me, expect a lot of property damage and sitting like a cool guy. Also, I'll be excluding any special win poses that only trigger off something like a finishing move or ultimate super move. I want these to be the win poses you can see after knocking your opponent out with anything ranging from your standard super move to a crouching light kick just to see how crazy your character goes off at the tiniest victory. And 1 character per series of origin. Now, let's cool off with the top 10 fighting game win poses that go hard. Number 10.
KO! Winner!
Iori Yagami from the King of Fighters goes crazy with that laugh. In general, a laugh for a win pose is always a good gloating measure. It comes in various forms, but the main ones that come to mind are the Sagat laugh, where it's a nice ah ha ha, the Shao Kahn laugh, where it's evil and echoey, the Brian Fury laugh, where it's pure maniacal, the Jolly laugh that you would see from Chun-Li, and of course the Ojo-sama laugh that goes oh ho ho ho. The main thing all these winning laughs have in common is it's usually just one cycle of laughter, like a standard you win, ha ha ha, next round. But with Iori, it just keeps building. He starts by slumping down to acknowledge his win, and then he realizes just how funny it is with not 1, not 2, but 3 different laughs in a row. First he has the giggle going with his head down, a bit of a subdued laugh. Then he raises his head for a more clear ha 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 ha. And then finally he tilts his head back with his hand on it for a hearty ah ha ha ha. It's like something new keeps coming to mind that he thinks is hilarious about how he just beat you. He really rubs in how pathetic he thinks his opponent is. Like, come on Iori, we gotta continue the match. We only really had time for 1 set of laughter.
Winner!
This winning animation continued in most games for his mid-fight win pose, since the King of Fighters mostly used still images for the end of the fight win screens. But when the main series switched over to 3D graphics, we got a bit more of Iori win pose action at the end of the fights, where he makes the camera follow his hand, and then he does a back turn pose while igniting his hand. As you'll later see on this list, I love a good back turn, but considering the emotion in that laugh, it's hard to beat when we win with the good ol' Iori chuckle. Number 9.
Can I get a round of applause for our contestants?
While I love a good laugh, I also love a primal yell for a win pose, which Iori also has, but he got his entry already. Instead, I turn to Painwheel from Skullgirls. It may be cliche, but I love aura on a character when they get mad, and Painwheel activates her aura at full force when she wins. She leans back as her aura goes crazy, and when she's doing this, she lets out the most feral scream she can, which adds to the fury.
Player 2 wins!
Painwheel herself is in a lot of pain and fueled by rage at what she's been turned into, which adds to the yell. It's for a reason. She was a girl who was experimented on to become a living weapon to fight the main boss of the game, the Skull Girl, causing that aura since the scientist Brain Drain is attempting to control her. Even though the animation on her attacks is cartoony, there's a lot of body horror with nails and spikes popping out of her body. Really, she's the most tragic character in the game. Gotta do top 10 tragic characters in fighting games someday. But with all that, the scream really makes the win pose for me. Props to her voice actress Danielle McRae for that. And also credit for the alternate Painwheel voice. Hit up after you select Painwheel, and all of her voice lines will be read like a Valley Girl. For the win pose, it still looks the same, but you get the funniest win quotes.
But some people are like, what about it?
That's a wrap!
Does it take away from the going hard aspect of this video? I don't know, but I like humor.
For sure. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. if I can handle this, you know?
And now a word from our sponsors.
Number 8.
You win! Beg for your life, as if it would help!
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 has a lot of violence towards the camera person, especially from the Resident Evil reps. Everyone from that series except Chris attacks this bystander. Of the roster, this camera has been grabbed, stabbed, thrown, makes me want to eventually cover win poses that break the fourth wall, since I can think of other games that also hate the camera. But the attack on the camera that gets it the worst is from Super Skrull. During his win screen, first he hits that Motaro pose with his rocky hand on fire, but then he sees the camera is trying to get an upwards angle and he's having none of that. He just curb stomps it to say, "How dare you capture me celebrating?" And what gets me is after it's broken, you see him digging his foot in to really make sure it doesn't work. Though right before the win quote part of the screen, it quickly rebuilds itself since it needs a solid image to make that transition. Skrull's powers are a copy of all the Fantastic Four members, but it's funny how he uses none of those powers to cause the camera damage. I would have thought he could at least do something cool like pull in the camera with a Reed Richards stretchy arm, but nope, the dude just needs his good old reliable foot, which is actually one of his lesser used attacks in his moveset. He has a stomping crunch, which is one of his worst tools, but hey, the win pose loves it.
K.O. You win! Enough of these adventures! Bring me the Fantastic Four!
Number 7.
You know, the nobler they stand, the more corrupt they fall.
I'm a big fan of sitting on throne win poses, so if you summon your throne in a cool way, you've got a good chance to make this list, and Belial in Grand Blue Fantasy Versus makes his throne out of swords, or whatever his hellish blades are made out of. Not only does he take a seat, but he starts the sitting process before the throne is ready. After doing his line about being immortal, he does a trust fall of sorts and forms the throne as he's falling, so he gets his seat right as the swords are ready. Oh, and then he does this edgy anime boy pose. Of course he would have an arrogant pose if he wins, because he loves to turn his back to the opponent during his main super move. This win pose goes so hard that Belial's transformed state, Avatar Belial, which is a different character on the roster, has the throne pose during his special win pose if he finishes the match with his super skybound art ultimate attack, though he's also trapping you in some darkness realm, so he's doing more than just copying his normal form's win pose. And Avatar Belial still grabs the camera in his default win pose, so he's continuing the tradition of going hard when winning. Actually, regular Belial has the special win pose of him stomping on the camera, so maybe both his forms have a little Super Skrull in them. That being said, Belial's throne sit is still his best win pose and the best throne in the game. Well, technically Cagliostro has the best throne, but you only see it in her special win pose, so it wasn't eligible for this list. Look at that thing, jeez! Watch my Disrespectful Super Moves List Volume 3 to learn about how this comes after she builds a golden statue of herself on top of you.
The work of a genius is never over.
Number 6. We've got a few characters in Dragon Ball FighterZ that destroy the stage when they win, but the one that stood out the most to me who does this is the super version of Broly, specifically when his armor is still on. Fighters' win poses show the character at 3 different angles before they do their official win pose, usually having them stand still during the camera changes. Broly, however, can't stay still, shaking as he's standing there. His power is so hard to contain, and his animalistic side tries to take over when he gets that lust for battle or is provoked. It's all over his moveset, and this win pose lets you close out the fight with one last uncontrollable explosion, where not only does he destroy a portion of the arena with a cool lighting effect, but his armor bursts off from the raw victory power. The armor also breaks off during one of his super moves, and it stays off for the rest of the match after that move is used, so it does take away from the win screen if he starts off half naked. The armor break is what ultimately got it on this list over the other field destroying win poses poses in the game. For the other two who were close, you have Z Broly, where I like how maniacal he looks as he stands in the middle of his explosion, and Kid Buu, who gets points for when he destroys the world, he doesn't even lift his arm. He goes from idle to barely moving his hand to do the planet burst. Love the concept that if you didn't beat Buu, it's just game over for everyone since he doesn't care who lives or dies. Number 5. I've always felt mixed on Ed from Street Fighter. Never been much of a fan of his designs, but in terms of how a boxer character plays, he still manages to set his playstyle apart from his other boxing peers in the series with the most realistic boxing fighting style with a twist. So when Street Fighter 6 brought him back, I was like, yeah, okay. He was introduced as a part of the new generation in Street Fighter 5, so it was nice to see Capcom follow through on at least some of the new class of fighters they introduced. You went to all that trouble of giving us new characters in Street Fighter 5, so why not use them? I feel Minot really should have been released early in Street Fighter 6's lifespan. Anyway, while I was already sold on Ed's moveset, when I saw that win pose, I was like, alright, he's got a bit of the sauce. I'm a sucker for characters who turn their backs to explosions. Not only that, but it's the way he creates the explosion. He uses his ability to make balls of psycho power, which he usually ties to his punches to extend their reach or grab the opponent with, but he can also just fire them off on his own if he so desires. So he creates one for his win pose, punches it like a speedball punching bag, and in doing so, the energy splits in two and goes flying behind him as he starts walking away, thereby creating his cool guys don't look at explosions moment. The mild recoil it causes even makes his hair and jacket sway ever so slightly, so he's really feeling himself. Overall, Ed probably thinks he's cooler than he actually is, but he made a good case for himself here. Number 4. Morrigan shows the power of what she can do with bats in her Darkstalkers win poses. While the floating seat of bats is probably the more famous win pose from her, she can use them for outfit quick changes. The main ones are her casual button-up, Chun-Li style with a key-pow dress and hair buns, and her nightlife two-piece. When Darkstalkers characters started appearing in the Marvel vs. Capcom crossovers, we saw some unused animations never put into the Darkstalkers games. Some might have even been made for the crossover. And with these new animations, Morgan got a new outfit which establishes some form of dominance. Now when she wins, she, to put it in rated T for T terms, puts on a torture outfit and lowers Lilith tied up. They did it in the Flintstones, so it's gotta be family friendly. But yes, to celebrate her victory, Morgan puts on leather dominatrix gear and reveals another Darkstalkers character, Lilith, is in bondage. I have 2 whole videos on Darkstalkers lore, but in short, they're both succubus characters, and Lilith is a piece of Morgan's soul and power separated from her after it formed its own body. So Morgan just demonstrates what she's doing to her lesser self when she beats you, that it could be much worse for you, or better, depends on your interests. I could say that she's also using this win pose as a brag since she has a third of her power restrained by tying up Lilith, implying that she doesn't need all of her strength to beat you. However, they reunited as one by the end of the 3rd Darkstalkers game, and the Marvel vs. Capcom games show them combining into one for Morgan's intro. So it's more that they just defuse this way, and Morgan restrains Lilith so she doesn't escape. Or maybe the devs just wanted to do something saucy, and this has no deeper meaning.
Hyper combo finish! KO! Morgan, win!
Number 3.
戦義成敗お上の祭り仇討ち是非なし阿炎に天の宝座何とぞ吉名に閻魔殿何とぞ吉名に閻魔殿
I can win straight.
Baiken from Guilty Gear just goes hard in general. She's a samurai with one arm and one eye, and she already had a good vibe in the early Guilty Gear games with her win poses. One consisted of her sitting down to smoke from her pipe, and the others where she grips a paper with her teeth and quickly slashes it as she turns away. I don't know if we ever got confirmation on what paper she's slashing, but I assume it's a wanted poster or hit list of whoever was just slain, since she was killing anyone she considered a monster in Guilty Gear X. But Baiken's cool factor found a way to go higher come Guilty Gear XR'd. She now gets her own narrator to give her an intro and outro like she's in a samurai movie when she enters and exits the field, along with the time of day changing, so she enters the match during sundown and leaves by moonlight. Just everything about both the intro and outro is hype. The narration, the text on the screen, the change to black and white, Baiken's presentation is just perfect. For the XR'd outro, I like how she tosses her hat up, and by the time it flies away, she's already on her next journey in the distance. She doesn't wear that hat during the match though, so did she put it on just to take it off a second later? The Guilty Gear Strive win pose goes just as hard and ties with the XR'd pose for this entry. The narrator and text on screen returns, but now we get some close-up shots to end the fight, where Baiken slashes the blade of grass she was chewing on as she turns her back, only to reveal a field of swords, which I assume are from the warriors she's slain. And add on that she's doing a back turn pose with an extra sword slash as the screen goes to black and white while the narration concludes. As if she needed any more flair, Baiken maintains her status as the coolest Guilty Gear character.
仇討ち是非なし阿鼻に天のホース千里成敗お上の松何とぞよしなに閻魔何とぞよしなに閻魔殿
Baiken wins.
Number 2.
Black Manta wins.
NetherRealm Studios really perfected the hype win pose during this era of their games. Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat 11 had some of the coolest win screens I've ever seen. Injustice 2 lingered a bit long on some, but one win pose that surprised me the first time I saw it was Black Manta. I love the sheer destructive fervor in this win pose. Most villains leave the world as is since they still need to conquer it or steal from it, so it needs to be intact, but Manta leaves nothing but ash. I would say he does it in part to his hatred of the surface world, but one of these stages is Atlantis, so I think he's just being dramatic. Or maybe he just hates Aquaman that much. He's Aquaman's villain, and I really only knew him from the old Super Friends Legion of Doom prior to Injustice, but when I got to know him from his special interactions in the fight intros, I loved the few dozen ways he described he would kill his opponent.
Is that garb designed to intimidate?
It's designed to make you a corpse. A mere man cannot harm me. A mere man with a heat ray can.
Finally, a worthy quarry.
Finally, a new rug.
Being a weapon-based fighter, his suit was full of guns, bombs, harpoons, but the most notable tool are his laser eyes on his iconic helmet. Once he's done frying you during the match, he aims them at the ground and does a single laser swipe upwards to go from standard arena to burning abyss during the millisecond we were blinded by the light. Not only that, but he does the smoothest walk-away motion during the transition to the fire field. So now everything is obliterated and on fire, but Manta is just walking away in the middle of the flames like nothing's wrong. Whenever I needed a pure destruction reaction gift to send to my friends, this win pose was high on my list.
Black Manta wins.
For number 1, it was a tough pick, since I had no idea who deserves it, and I don't mean tough picking the game. I mean the game that's representing number 1 has so many choices. This game had multiple win poses per character, and the presentation was pure hype on everything. It was just a gut feeling who got number 1, but it's pretty much a 37-way tie between the whole roster. I implied the game in the last entry, number 1. I'm just gonna turn this into the Mortal Kombat 11 win pose appreciation entry. Mortal Kombat 11 had my favorite choreography, camera angles, music, and sound effects of any win poses in fighting games. The characters get so creative in how they use their powers or show off their weaponry in the 5 or so seconds they have to celebrate their victory. And each character has 4 win poses, so there are a lot to choose from. First, there's characters who love to charge at the camera. For example, Raiden Electric flies right at us, Kotal goes into kitty mode, Melina goes feral, and Cabal cabals at us. Next, there's characters who create things just to break them later. Garrus with his giant sand, Jax with his bomb, and Sub-Zero with his ice. Then there's ones who get on a vehicle, Rambo, Terminator, Sonya, and sometimes they just explode. Noob does it, Scorpion does it with fire, Joker does it for a Dark Knight reference, and if they're feeling more relaxed, they'll just pose. These poses still go hard. They always need to do some sort of choreography before it though, whether it's summoning a chair, creating clones of themselves, or just lighting up a smoke. A few characters even have more cinematic versions of their classic win poses from the original trilogy, and even with that, they found a way to turn a simple arm motion into something grand. Rain has a lightning strike as he does the pose, for example. For some of these great poses, I don't even have a classification for them. They're just cool as hell. Like when Shiva starts chugging wine, Nightwolf does the wolf yell, and Frost sets off an ice bomb that coincidentally makes curves to skate on, and she does sick-ass kickflips and stuff. Tony Hawk up in here, or I guess Shaun White since it's ice. So with these assorted win poses, is there one I like the best? Hard to say. It's like asking me my favorite Simpsons episode. It depends how I'm feeling when you ask me. But if I had to pick one character, I'd actually say the guest character Spawn. The resurrected human with demon powers who's now an edgy hero does something I like for each of his 4 win poses. The most basic one is the classic charge at the camera. Then he also has a throne pose. Great, but the other 2 poses go the hardest for me. One win pose has him go to hell and confront the giant demon Malbogia for an epic fight, who's the guy that gave Spawn his powers. The other win pose has him tear off his mask, which is attached to his face, and it's brutal. Why'd you have to tear it off right now? But as I said, I could go in any direction for this. Spawn just has that aura that makes me default to him. And really, I'm just prolonging this segment as an excuse to show off more of these win poses. It may not be my favorite Mortal Kombat in terms of gameplay, but when it comes to victory, Mortal Kombat 11 was a clear winner.
Johnny Cage wins. Jade wins. Liu Kang wins. Shang Tsung wins.
Now, what did you think? Did all these win poses make you hyped for victory, or do I need to redefine my idea of going hard? And what are some of your favorite win poses in fighting games, whether I discussed them or not? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.